Good afternoon. I am Alana Mary, a nutrition student at UNF. This is my client, Trek Campbell. He has recently been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Trek, welcome.
Thank you.
So, to get started on carb counting, first, what do you think a carb is?
I'm not really sure what a carb is other than maybe a form of energy from food.
Well, that's close. Carbohydrates, or starch and sugar, that are the main nutrient in foods, are responsible for raising blood sugar. Carbs are good for you. Many people think that carbs are not good because they can tend to gain a lot of weight. But really, a non-diabetic needs at least 130 grams of carbohydrates per day for effective brain function. So, why do you think it's important to count carbohydrates now that you've been recently diagnosed?
Because I need to make sure that my insulin levels are proper and that I have proper brain function.
So, why is it important to count carbohydrates? First of all, it's important because you're managing your diabetes and you can accurately dose your own insulin. Carbohydrates turn into sugar or glucose in the blood, and that helps insulin. Oops, I messed up. Carbs turn into sugar in the blood, and insulin helps that sugar get into the cells. It's also important to count carbohydrates to control your portion size, and that essentially results in weight loss. The amount of insulin you take depends on how many carbohydrates you are eating in a day. So what kind of foods do you think contain carbohydrates?
I would think maybe some pastas, maybe vegetables.
Yes, you're right. So the main groups that contain carbohydrates are your grains and starches, such as breads, pastas, rice. You mentioned veggies. There's two types of veggies. There's starchy veggies and non-starchy veggies. Non-starchy veggies are your mushrooms, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower, tomatoes. And your starchy vegetables are ones that you think of that might be starchy, like potatoes, lima beans, peas, corn. So other grains or other groups that contain carbs are fruits and milk and sweets. So fruits, about one small piece of fruit is an equal to a serving of a carbohydrate, and milk has about, they say about 12 to 15 grams of carbs, and for counting, it's easier just to use the 15. Juice and soda and other sweetened drinks have much more sugar, therefore a higher carbohydrate amount. Sweets that a lot of people like to eat, like brownies, cakes, and cupcakes, they are really high in carbohydrates, and you have to be careful when you're consuming those. Meats and meat alternatives like tofu and fish and eggs and cheese actually falls under that category. They do not have any carbohydrates. And fats like butter, oils, and avocado do not have fats as well, or don't have carbs as well. So they say that one serving of carbohydrates equals 15 grams of carbohydrates. So 15 and 1 are always going to be like the range that you're going off of. So let's look at a nutrition label. Have you ever learned how to read a nutrition label?
I have not.
Oh, well, for carbohydrates, you want to look at the servings and the total carbohydrate. So this is organic Irish-style oatmeal. On the back, it says that one serving is about a half a cup of the oatmeal, and a half a cup of oatmeal is 27 grams of carbohydrates. So to make it easy, we're going to divide 27 by 15.
Okay.
So to make it easy, it's nice to round up to 30 divided by 15. So that would be 2. So a half a cup would be equal to 2 servings of carbohydrates. So keep that in mind. Always look at the total carbohydrates and the serving size. If the serving size, like this one, is about a half cup for 15 grams of carbohydrates, that's a great option. Since this one is almost 30 grams, that means, like I said, it's 2 servings of carbohydrates. So, since you're a male, I'm going to be talking about what guys need to be eating all day long. So each meal needs to be around 60 to 70 grams of carbohydrates for your 3 meals, and you want to keep it around 15 to 20 grams for snacks. So it's important to space your carbs out evenly throughout the day to keep your blood sugar steady, and if you incorporate meats and fats, that can also keep you fuller longer. When taking insulin, always check your blood sugar before a meal. That way, depending on your blood sugar, you may need more or less insulin. The exchange list is a great tool to use to interchange carbs and servings. The exchange list is a list that is made that you can literally exchange. So if you want oatmeal and you don't know how much that is, it's going to show you, half a cup of oatmeal is this many carbs. But if you want to exchange it for maybe grits, it'll kind of help you manage that.
Have an idea of where I'm at.
Exactly. Or if you want, 1 piece of white bread or 1 piece of whole wheat bread, it kind of explains the difference of the carbohydrates. So the exchange system is really important when you're diabetic to look at.
6 minutes.
Thank you. That's fine.
Okay.
So we're going to quickly go over a sample breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack for Trek. So 2 eggs for breakfast would be 0 carbohydrates. 2 pieces of bread would be around 30 grams of carbohydrates. 1 small tangerine is 15 grams. A half of avocado is 0 grams, and 1 cup of oatmeal is about 30 grams. So for his breakfast, he's having about 75 grams of carbs. That's a really great way to start the day. For lunch, he says he likes to have stir fry. So with tofu, that would be no carbs. 1 cup of rice noodles is about 45 grams of carbohydrates. And he likes to throw in about 1/3 of a cup of each broccoli, bok choy, and mushrooms. Since those are all non-starchy, then they would be about 5 carbs each. So 45 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 is about 60 grams of carbs for lunch for him. And dinner he says he likes to eat a lot of rice and fish since they're lean. So 4 ounces of fish is obviously 0 grams of carbohydrates. 1 cup of rice is around 45 grams of carbohydrates. A half a cup of Brussels sprouts is about 5 grams of carbohydrates. And 1 small dinner roll is about 15 grams of carbohydrates. And he likes to top that all off with a half a cup of sauteed onions, which are around 5. So for dinner, he's looking around 70 grams of carbohydrates. For snack, a small apple is 15 grams of carbohydrates, and 1 tablespoon of peanut butter is only 3 grams of carbohydrates. At night, he says he likes to snack on popcorn, so I explained to him that about 3 cups of air popcorn with no butter or margarine is around 15 grams. So for those 2 snacks, he's looking at around 33 grams of carbohydrates, for the total of around 238 grams for the day. So I think that's a really great amount of carbohydrates for you to consume because you're trying to, increase brain function, but also maintain your portions.
Most definitely. I would
so
say.
Have I answered all of your questions?
I think so, and I appreciate the lunch, dinner, breakfast list.
Yeah, I hope you really enjoy this.
It gives me a better idea of what I actually need to eat.
Yep, and this will be a great meal prep plan idea for you one day.
Okay, excellent.
Well, thank you so much for stopping in.
Thank you, Miss Alana.
Go Jags.